Hello and welcome back, guys, to another episode of Inside Out with Sahas and Ali, where we talk about mental health, our mindset, limiting beliefs, and really pushing you to ask more whys. Today, we have a very special guest with us. Her name is Tessa, and she's actually a social worker as well as a licensed therapist. And she is currently taking on clients, and she's been working in the field for around 20 years, as well as she's working with police officers on the side and basically helping them for any mental health crisis that happens on the spot. So she has a lot of experience and she's coming out with some really cool tips, advice, and value that you will find helpful. So please stick around and I'm pretty sure you're going to enjoy this episode. So Tessa, thanks again for joining us. This is something I wanted to do for a while because I was talking to you last time and you were telling me about the stuff you've seen and the things you worked with, and you've definitely seen some, I would call it not crazy, but definitely out of the ordinary things that someone doesn't usually see.
Yeah,
How's that
definitely
been?
interesting experiences, right? Interesting
Hmm.
experiences. Yeah. Well, thank you both for inviting me to take a part of your podcast. I'm grateful for this experience, so thank you. Um, and I love my job.
Hmm.
I love everything that comes with it. So all the people I get to meet and the lives I get to be a part of. Um, so although I see some very interesting, sometimes very difficult situations, I'm always mindful to be grateful for everything. Yeah.
Exactly. And how have things been with you so far during the last year with COVID? I'm pretty sure the mental health crisis has probably taken a toll on a lot of people since the lockdown.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely the lockdown has with isolation and everything like that, it's really increased um people's ability to cope, right? Like you got to think
Hmm.
with the lockdowns and quarantine, a lot of coping skills have been a lot of coping mechanisms have been taken away. The gym, going shopping, getting together with friends and family, connection,
Hmm.
all those things have been raw from people. So yeah, definitely uh, things have increased in terms of mental health and people needing and seeking additional support. Yeah.
Yeah, Sauce and I were just talking about that. Like, I miss the gym a lot. That's something it's my stress reliever. So it's pretty sure Sahas would agree as well that we need that physical activity. Not just that, but the fact that I know it's pretty bad in Toronto. In our area, it's a little bit better in Waterloo, Kitchener, but not being able to meet your family, going out, and just being confined in one area, right? It definitely takes a toll on a lot of people.
Definitely, and not only just the isolation piece, but I think it's increased a lot of individuals' fear, right? Like I think um, COVID has really shown people that death is imminent and death
Yeah.
happens. And so I think when it comes with COVID is related to death, right? And so individuals are scared to go out now, right? Like it's
Hmm.
increased a lot of uh fear, which has caused a lot of anxiety and depression and things like that, because a lot of people are staying at home, are refusing to see family and friends. And I definitely recommend following government regulations and things like that, but at the same time you also have to consider your own mental health and where you're at too.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just to ask you a little bit about your work that you do in the therapy, could you give me a little more information about what exactly you do for the police department and as a therapist, like in your work?
Yeah, so for the police, I work on a team. So I work for the police full time. Well, it's police and Canadian Mental Health Services.
Mhm.
And I work on a team called the Impact Team. So essentially, when there's any mental health or addiction calls, we're often asked to go out and to offer assessments, support, and all those things to help kind of bridge the gap in services, right? And then for my own private practice,
Mhm.
I'm a generalist practitioner, but a lot of my focus is in terms of depression and anxiety. And I do a lot of family systems therapy as well as a lot of child therapy as well.
Okay. So I can only assume, like in the past 1 year, like the way that COVID has hit, and there's obviously a lot of mental health issues coming up. So do you see the difference what it was before COVID and now? Like, have you been more busy with the stuff which is happening around?
Yeah, well, so my work with the police started while COVID was already here. So I
Mm.
really don't have a basis in terms of speaking to whether that's become busier since COVID.
Mhm.
But when it comes to my counseling and just general trends I see in the community when it comes to mental health, 100% without a question,
Yeah.
people are struggling and mental health is on the rise. Um, it, and at a fast rate, I feel
Mm.
personally. um my daughter in the background.
I was gonna say, yeah, you're a busy mom then, like, especially with work and being a parent, never
Yeah.
easy. Leading up to that, what question Sahas asked, depression, anxiety are some of the most common things humans suffer. Depression being the leading cause of death around the world, apparently, from what I did my research on, and as well as the most common thing people suffer with globally. Now, same thing with anxiety, and that's a whole different spectrum. So, what are some thinking patterns that you've noticed when it comes to depression and anxiety in a patient? Let's say for depression, it might be I'm not good enough. For anxiety, it might be um, I'm in danger or something's going to happen. What are some of the things you see when someone's suffering with those kind of issues?
I would say, I mean, there's a lot, right? Like, there's a lot of unhelpful thinking styles, right? So what you're talking about is more like when it's the worthiness piece, and I'm not liked, and all those. Those are more core values and things that come out, and those things definitely come out with anxiety and depression, and those are a lot of things that I work on with my clients, right? And when it comes to the actual thinking process, there's a lot of negative thinking that individuals partake in, that we all do, but when it comes to depression and anxiety, it's over exaggerated, right? So things like our should haves, could haves, would haves, must haves, right? Like
Yeah,
that sort of thought process is increased. Your black and white thinking, like there's no middle ground, it's either this or this and that's it. Catastrophizing, so a lot of people with depression or anxiety will blow things out of proportion, right? Like or will jump to conclusions or things like that. But oftentimes what comes along with those negative thinkings are also the negative core values and core beliefs, which are the things like I'm unlikable, I'm
hmm,
unlovable, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, like that type of thinking that goes along with it. So oftentimes when people have those negative thought patterns, there's often an underlying core belief that's there as well.
So do you think
interesting.
like the people who come out and ask for your help, or is like what kind of demographic would you say that most people are aware that they're going through depression? Because a lot of times what also happens is when somebody is going through a depression, they don't even realize that they're under depression. So do you also get that kind of thing around like mental state?
Definitely a lot of individuals who's I mean, not just depression, it's really any mental health. It's
Mhm.
schizophrenia, it's bipolar, it's borderline
Wow.
personality, right? Like, you have to think, when you have your own thought process and your own perceptions on life, those are true to you,
Yeah.
right? And so if you're depressed, that thought process and that feeling, that feels true to you. And unless someone has said, hey, or unless you've gotten feedback, right, from
Mhm.
outside of you that says, okay, maybe this isn't normal, that's then when you might go and ask for help and seek help, right? But yes,
Mhm.
there's a lot of individuals in the community that have mental health struggles, that have either come up with positive coping mechanisms on their own, um, or they're just kind of getting through life, and they, and they're feeling isolated and aren't aware of what's impacting or affecting them.
So my question is like something related to like, what do you think it's the mental health issues are arising in what kind of a demographic? equation? Like, is it like more females, more males? What age group? What do you think is the pattern that you're looking at right now?
I think right now, when it comes to COVID
Mhm.
and everyone kind of facing the struggle, I think it's affecting everyone, right? Um, Definitely when it comes to suicide rates and things like that, like the instances of suicide actually being followed through on are higher in males, middle age, white.
Hmm.
Um, but so if you look at each one separately, you'll definitely find trends in terms of demographically, like demographically, there'll be trends, uh, I don't personally know them. In terms of right now, when it comes to COVID,
Hmm.
everyone is affected.
Everyone is,
Everyone,
Yeah.
I was
yeah,
going to say the same
everyone's being
situation. Yeah,
affected by it.
I totally understand.
Yeah, and the scary part is that, like you were talking about this earlier as well, is that we don't know if you're depressed. It's usually someone else who points it out. You need to see a therapist, and I've
Hmm.
noticed that, and that's scary.
Hmm.
Like, do you ever think there is a point where anyone listening would know I need to see someone, whether it's depression, anxiety? Is there like a threshold you think that once crossed, you need to see someone?
Yeah, I definitely think that there are individuals on their own. Now, again, it's still from a source of feedback in terms of your life and how you're living and what's happening. But definitely, I think on your own, there 100% there are people that reach out that realize, okay, I'm not feeling like I used to feel. What's happening? I'm
Hmm.
not doing that. I'm not showering every day, or I'm not reaching out to friends and family, or friends and family have been complaining about me, or I felt really sad over a long period of time. There's definitely signs and symptoms that I think
Hmm.
individuals can pick up on their own that lead them to reaching out, either to friends or family, or to more professional services.
Interesting. And yeah, it's one thing I've also noticed is that most of our, I mean, at least personally, most of our behaviors in the future, whether it's the way we react to certain things, our general, mindset, core beliefs, is pretty much set from an early age and how we were raised up, our community, who influences us, our social gatherings, family, whatnot. When it comes to, let's say you've lived a life where you growing up you had a ton of limiting beliefs, and you find that now you're, let's say, a 25-year-old person, woman, male, and you seem to struggle a lot and you can't really pinpoint why. I don't have the confidence, I'm suffering from all these issues, I don't have the work ethic, maybe. One, how important is our early in childhood environment? And two, do you think there's a way we can break that wheel, that pattern of thinking?
Mhm.
Once you're like, it feels like people say that, oh, this is just who I am, this is how I was raised. True, but do you think there's a way you can break that growing up?
Hmm. So I'm hoping my answer is going to actually answer what you're asking. But so I'm really interested in inner child healing as a therapist, because you're right. When we're born, our environment, the way that we're raised, where we're raised, who we're raised with, the experiences and things that we're exposed to and have, shape our values. They shape our perceptions. They shape our core beliefs. Right.
Hmm.
So when it comes to the inner child healing, when if you look at, as a child, we're born with a blank slate, right? We haven't really developed our
Yeah.
personality. There's certain, obviously, biological things that go on for us and things like that, right? But in
Hmm.
terms of our experiences, as we grow older and we start to experience certain things that we view as traumatizing as kids, it can be little things or it can be bigger things. What we do is we create what's called sub personalities.
Hmm.
And as a way to cope, with these experiences and things that are going on. And we're being taught how to act a certain way or be a certain way in certain in certain situations that we're faced with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as we grow older and we become adults, our conscious mind starts kicking in a bit more. And sometimes what can happen is our experiences as a child and these coping
Mm-hmm.
mechanisms we develop as a child, um, it comes in conflict with our conscious mind and how we want to be, right? Like, so they create a clash that then makes us feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we can do when we see that, when we feel or know that clash, it's about exploring where that comes from, you know, looking at where do we want
Mm-hmm.
to be and what is our experience that's holding me back from this development and this growth, right?
Mhm.
Interesting. And what, let's say if I come to you and I'm asking, hey, listen, these are my negative habits. I think when I was growing up, my parents always told me money doesn't grow on trees, and I now have a poverty mindset.
Yeah.
Um, would you be able to tackle that, let's say, by, I know CBT is really helpful because
Mm,
you're identifying your thoughts and you're changing your behaviors.
that's right.
This could be used in any kind of mindset. What
Yeah.
would you recommend someone when it comes to, let's say, really pinpointing their core beliefs and start really uh, doing homework on it, let's say, or taking something home and really changing your mindset? What kind of exercises would you provide to someone?
So I mean, there's different exercises that you can do. I think for one is you need to explore where those things come from, right? Like actually explore them and pinpoint them. And then you need to
Hmm.
look at, okay, where are they coming out in my life? Where are they coming out in my adult life, right? And then from there you can look at, okay, strategies that people can use, right? Yeah.
Hmm.
So uh, you know, if say, I think you brought up the example of negative thinking patterns and wanting to think more positively, right? One
Right.
thing that's a benefit and is so underplayed is literally affirmations every morning. Say
Okay.
one positive sentence to yourself, right? What that does is it releases our happy hormones in our head and sends, you know, it increases blood flow, oxygen, all this lovely physical stuff that goes along with it. And
Mhm.
when you get great physical benefits out of doing something, it creates more incentive to keep doing it, right? So yeah,
Interesting.
definitely affirmations are it's something so little and small that you can do. Something like, I am strong, I am powerful, I'm perfect. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't need to
Hmm.
be anything fancy, right? Affirmations, journaling.
Yeah.
Journaling is something that is so important. um, I mean, take 5 minutes to sit down, do a voice note even to yourself, something, you know. I know a lot of people say in terms of time sometimes it's hard to sit down and write all your thoughts, but then do a voice note. There's so much technology out there now. But the reason why journaling is so important, especially when you want to change your behavior, is because our minds they're fickle things. They like to trick us, right? Our minds can change our own memories on us.
Hmm.
Our minds are so fascinating. So when you write things down and you write down your experiences as you're feeling it in the moment, it's easier for you to reflect upon that and reflect
Mhm.
upon have, you know, if you're looking at it a month down the line and you look at a journal and you're like, oh, okay, I've made these changes, and you can see it in your journaling and how you're writing. You will see that you were writing in more negative past tenses, and if you've created the changes, you'll look at your journaling or your voice notes or whatever, and you'll notice that you're using more positive words and forward thinking and things like that, right? So journaling, definitely important. Another thing I always like to for my clients is doing things like vision boards and stuff like that. You
Yeah.
know,
Ah,
I was about to
interesting.
say that. Like, I think that is a really
yeah,
important thing. Yeah.
yeah, vision boards are great, right? Because again, it gets you thinking about,
Yeah.
what do I want my life to look like? What's exciting? What gives me fire, passion? What makes me happy?
Hmm.
What do I want in my life? And then, you know, putting it in a place though consciously where you're looking at it daily. So you're constantly taking in that input of, these are all the lovely things and wonderful things that I want in my life, right? To keep you thinking positively and looking forward to those certain things. So yeah, vision boards. Another activity I like is actually writing out things as if you already have it too, right? So it's a type of manifesting. Manifesting is a big
Oh
word
yes,
now, right?
yes. Like if somebody's saying that I like if you want, let's say if Ali wants 10 rental properties, then he could say, I have 10 rental properties in
Interesting.
2021.
That's
So
right.
like, yeah, so something like that, right? And I do the same way. I also do the same way. It's a very good
Mm,
habit because in my mind, I'm already thinking in a way that it has already happened, or if I'll say it, I want, that means it's already in the future.
Yes, right? It means you don't have it, it means you're lacking,
Yes,
right? But if
absolutely.
you say, I have it,
Yeah,
I have it already. I'm already abundant. I'm already great, right? Like it's already
absolutely.
here.
That's
Yeah.
even
interesting.
that's the way that even I write my goals that way too, because I want to make it like what you said about manifestation. I want to feel that I already have that instead of just, wanting and having a desire to achieve them in the future. That's
Yeah.
just a dream otherwise.
Right? Yes, exactly. And well, dreams are lovely. The way
Yes.
we want to encourage positive thinking is that you're in abundance already, right? So that's why I love that. And I think that's great that you do that already.
Yeah. And another thing I think you said very rightly about journaling. And my wife and I, we recently got into the habit of doing writing grateful journaling, like writing, what are
Hmm.
you grateful for every day when you wake up,
Yeah.
and it's somewhere, it's like what you said, like it doesn't have to be big things. It just could be anything that you are, grateful for. Like today it was a sunlight. I'm grateful there was a bright day.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm grateful to be alive.
I'm grateful to be alive.
That's
Absolutely, I'm breathing.
beautiful.
I woke up alive. So
Up. I'm so grateful I've
that I
woken
woke
up
up.
this morning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
One question I wanted to ask you, like in terms of, since we're talking about, because a lot of people, I believe, like finding their why is a little difficult sometimes. Like what that's challenge. Like even if you are thinking about what goals do you want to achieve, what direction that you want to go, it gets a little difficult because they don't have really understood what their core values are.
Mhm.
So do you really believe that that is possible for someone to first, like how can they experience, or how can they even know their like their core values in that case?
I think, honestly, I think everyone has a sense of what their core values are,
Mhm.
because it's evident in your behavior. It's evident
Mm.
in what you do. It's evident in what your life looks like, right?
Right.
I think sometimes the difficulty is, of course, identifying it and exploring it,
Yes. Yes.
right? But I think internally everyone really knows, and sometimes you just need that little push for someone to help you. And
Ye-
I personally think someone can know their why and still struggle with their core values, right?
mm,
And still have struggles in terms of core values, but still know their why they want to change, and
yeah.
or why they want to push forward or things like that,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Right. Because it could be, your why could be very external also, right? And when it is external, then it is supposed to change until it is not internally satisfying. And sometimes, a lot of people say that the reason why I'm doing it is because I need more money, or I need to buy that house, and that is an external why. But when you go to the extreme levels of understanding what your why is, like what is the, not the surface level but under the surface level, to
Mhm.
understand like why do you want money?
Yep.
Okay, I need money for, so that my family could be comfortable. Why do you want your family to be comfortable? Because maybe somewhere he or she has something in their minds that I've experienced adversity when I was growing up.
Mhm.
So understanding the core, like, what is the vibe beyond the surface, I think that helps you to at least go to some, like not you're touching on the surface level, but you're actually going deeper in understanding what your why could be.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I'm glad you brought up a lot of things in terms of material
Mhm.
material wants and needs, and I think that that is such an issue in our society right now. That's further exacerbated social media and all these platforms that we
Oh,
use.
yeah.
these platforms it can be great for certain things like this podcast and getting information
Right.
and things like that out, but there's also a greater evil behind it all too,
Absolutely.
right? And I think that sometimes leads to a lot of depression and anxiety and mental health concerns as well. Is when you're using those external forces and it's further being proven by all these images and messages and things like that that you're
Yeah.
getting, and you're not looking internally. What do I want? Why do I want this? Does this feed me? Does this bring me joy? Those sorts
Right.
of things, right? And people think, well, it will bring me joy because look at all these images of happy people with
Yeah.
all this
Right.
money.
Right.
Little do they know, those people have the money to take the pictures and that's how they're generating more. But behind closed doors, they're crying and
Yeah, absolutely.
suffering, right? So
Like
it's,
social media, exactly. Like social media is, I've never seen anyone that, who's saying that today I'm having a really bad day and I'm really depressed. I'm
yeah,
really sad.
yeah.
They
So
are
I have seen those things. Like I've seen the woman on there crying and like
Oh, well.
and talking about those. Like
But
I
at
mean,
least, see, this is so good. Like, you know what? I really feel that women are so expressive, and when they have to, people like women who are empowered, who feel that, they have to share it, they have to get it out of their chest. And it's so brave of them to do that. Men, men don't do that.
men is yeah, men and emotions. I
It's
mean,
like, boys don't cry. Like, it's all
Yeah.
very screwed up on the.
and honestly, like that issue, is everywhere with men, like amongst all cultures, all races. Men
Yes.
do not share their emotions. You are to be the strong one. You are to
Brave.
be the
Yes.
provider. Definitely mental. And I think that's why earlier I mentioned men are more likely to follow through when it comes to suicide, because men are told you
Mhm.
don't talk about these things,
No.
you keep them to yourself. And in terms of men seeking counseling and supports like that, it's such a higher stigma for men to talk about their feelings, but we are all humans. We are all
Absolutely.
experiencing this life. We all have feelings regardless of race, age, gender, all that stuff, right? So it's unfortunate that I think worldwide across the board, men are often suppressed when it comes to expressing their feelings and emotions and things like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like I remember when I was also growing up, I had that kind of an experience too. Like in terms of so there was a point in my life when I was undergoing depression, and that was maybe during when I was in adolescence age, like somewhere in between those times. And like my parents also didn't know any better because everybody is you don't talk about mental health, you don't talk about, people are going to think about it, it's are you
They're going to judge you. They're going to
going
judge
to judge you. So instead of taking me to psychiatrist or somebody that I can talk to, they took me to a doctor who is a neuro physician or something, who was actually just injecting me some kind of a you know medication or anything, but what I really needed was to have somebody to talk to.
you. Yeah. Yeah.
And having that understanding was such a tough thing for my even like for anyone, like it's very difficult for somebody to even understand that we are all humans at the ground level, like even internally we are all, and we just need to make that connection. We need to ask, like, how are you doing today? Just
Mhm.
asking these simple questions,
Yeah.
like
But
really asking them,
and exactly, really asking them.
really asking them.
That's
Yeah.
the issue. Is we're so used to asking, "How are you?" But all
How are
we want
you?
to hear is good.
Yeah,
That's it,
everything is
Yeah.
good.
right? We don't.
Yeah.
We don't. If someone actually goes into explanation, oftentimes the person who asked the question is like, "Oh man, this person's actually getting into their feels."
And you know what is funny? Like if even if you, like when you're texting someone or somebody text you and they say, "Hey, how are you? And by the way, did you do this?" I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
right? And they just
Yeah.
just like just blew it off.
Exactly. And the thing is, we're all guilty of it, right? Like,
Yeah,
like I'm
yeah,
guilty
yeah.
of it. We're all guilty
But
of
you know
doing
what?
that.
Like I'm trying to inherit that kind of an exercise. So what I did, I had to ask somebody, like, I had a work with, I had to ask about some work from somebody. And I just wrote, how have you been? But I didn't get a reply till morning because but after that, I had to ask, like, did you do that? So I didn't do it. But first, I patiently waited for her to respond. And,
Yeah.
because it's because we are very impatient, because you know what? We just want things like that.
Everything's so quick now, right? Like
Everything.
everything down to ordering food now. We can do it
Yeah.
at the click of our thumbs, and it'll be here, like, paid and everything, and it'll show up to our door. Like we don't we don't have to really try for things anymore, right?
Hmm.
Like everything's so accessible. And then what happens with that is then, we pack our lives with then all these things that then fill that extra time and space that we have from doing these little tasks that they would have taken up space, but now we've made them so convenient that now we have all this time. What do we
Yeah.
do with it? Right?
Right.
It's
And
time to
then
go primitive right now.
yeah, and then we overwhelm ourselves and all those things that come with it. But definitely getting back to the connection piece that you mentioned, it's I think everyone at the end of the day needs and wants and craves connection. And I think that that's the motivating factor behind a lot of things when it comes to our experiences, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, kind of expanding on that last point, uh, not just connections, but when it comes to actually seeking help, a lot of people have trouble seeking help, especially in certain communities. It's looked down upon, like you said, and that's true. We're not, men aren't told to seek help, men are told to keep it in. What would you tell someone? How do you seek help when society has been putting so much pressure on you that if you speak out, you're weak, apparently? Like
Mhm.
how, or even if your family isn't that supportive or doesn't want to talk, and you're just scared that if you say something, someone's going to judge you, or you don't have the resources, how do you in that situation go from I can do this to okay, I need someone to help me out?
Well, I think podcasts like this, talking about these things, right,
Hmm.
and getting those, because someone that maybe wouldn't have reached out and would have felt that it's a weakness, people need to know and hear, and we need to scream it at the top of our lungs that vulnerability is strength. Talking about things and bearing the things that we don't want to bear, and being fully exposed is the biggest strength. I think that's bigger than hiding things, right? um
Hmm.
but I think education and like having these sorts of things, I think, would help someone in their life to reach out. um I think you also just need to be in a place of change yourself, right? Because
Yep.
we've all experienced I feel we've all experienced times in our lives where we've done something that's kind of gone against the norm, right? And it's
Yeah.
because, well, internally we felt that pull and that need to do that. So my hope would be for individuals that are struggling with reaching out and speaking, that at some point they get to that point on their own in their stage of change where they do reach out, and hopefully when they do reach out, it's received well. I think is the
Exactly.
other point that goes along with it too, right?
Exactly. No, I do agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I also wanted to kind of ask you, this is one thing I was talking to you about on the phone. This is regarding one of those moments this podcast is all about, is asking more whys and unleashing the genius within you. And a genius could be so many things, right? So we believe that everybody is born a genius, but not everyone knows it. They have genius abilities, and a genius ability is, it could be anything. It could be different things, multiple. Not everyone's an Albert Einstein. Not everyone's a Michelangelo.
What?
Um, you know, but they're their own genius in a way.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts when we say everyone is a genius in a way? And following up to that, do you think you're a genius in what you do?
Wow, my inner core belief wants me to say absolutely not. No, I'm not a genius. No,
Hmm.
I like that. I like that. I like that. I like that explanation that everyone does have their own genius. And I would 100% agree with that, that everyone does have their own genius and has their own special skill. And hopefully in this lifetime, they have the opportunity to tap into that and to show it to the world. Now, not everyone gets the opportunity to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where mental health kicks in. But I enjoy that perspective. I think that's a really great perspective. And I would agree that I think everyone does have their own genius and their own special gifts to share with the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And everything starts with belief. Like if you believe that you are genius, there you go.
Then you are, right? And
You
it shows up, in different ways. Being like, you mentioned Albert Einstein and things like that. I think that's, we're looking at genius in a traditional form then when you look at that, right?
Right.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
it's in
That you
terms,
have to be smart. You have to be, very educated.
yeah, you have to have your doctorate, and you have to be able to think
Yeah,
differently, and
scholar or something
a
like that.
scholar, and be recognized. You have to be
Yes,
recognized for it
absolutely.
too, right? So not only do you need to be genius, but you need other people to buy into your genius.
Like to be honest, like whatever we are doing right now, the podcast,
Yeah,
like anyone can do it. So like we are not. It's not like we really needed some kind of a scholarship, some kind of institutional certification to actually do this.
yeah,
You
yeah.
just need to switch on the computer and sign up and just,
And here it
that's
That's
is.
it.
it.
Yeah, and be able to talk.
And be able to talk. That's it.
Be able to talk, and that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, exactly. So I think when you name those people, it's society has given a meaning to that. But I think that we are all genius, we are all special, we are all part of the universe, we all are connected, right? And
Right.
I think that's what makes us all genius too. But within that, we
Mm-hmm.
all have our own special skills and sets in terms of what we bring to the connection of everyone as well. So yeah,
Right.
I love that you guys have that thought. That's great.
And I think the tough part here is, what is the definition of genius anyways? Like, it's so hard to explain. Is it intelligence? Is it ability to create? Is it
Yeah.
leadership? What is a genius?
I think it's all
What would
those
you think?
things. I think it's all
So
those
many things.
things. I
So
think it's
many
whatever you can create to shine, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I think genius can be whatever it is that you bring to this world, right? Like and maybe that's where I'm struggling to define it, because we already have this area where we define it, and it's like, and if I define it, then I'm adding another limitation to what genius is, right?
Exactly.
things.
So
Exactly.
I love that. Yeah.
yeah. So I think genius is whatever you want it to be,
Yeah,
and
whatever you
I
want.
love that.
And
right.
it starts with just believe and what you want to believe in. That's it.
Yeah, and that's
Mm-hmm.
it. And then it is it.
It is what it is.
It is it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
this
a Yeah, it's a brilliant definition. I love that.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really like the way that you really talk about core values and all of that stuff. Could you share your core values? What do you really believe in terms of core values? I'm really interested in knowing that.
Personally, my core values. I'm going to talk about my positive core values.
Okay.
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 Because there's both, right? We all have both positive and negative core
Yeah.
values, right? So the negative core values are things that we want to work on and improve, and they develop from those experiences as a young child, and then our positive core values. So my core values, I believe in the beauty of the world, essentially. Like, it's a really big one, but there's so much to be grateful and
Mm-hmm.
and happy about in this world. And I think if you have the ability to really take in the positives and just the way everything works and it's connected, and like I think everyone would really benefit from oh, I've lost my train of thought. Hold on.
No worries.
Sorry.
You
But
can start again.
No,
Yeah.
like whatever you're saying, I think it totally makes sense also because it
Yeah.
shows. It shows
Yeah.
on your face, like the kind of smile that you have, the kind of the way that
Exactly.
you're speaking about it. It
Thank you.
shows that
Oh,
you
Mhm.
thank you.
believe in what you're saying, and that is enough. And that what values are. Like I can see it already. That
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I believe in the beauty of the world. I believe in humans. I believe that we can do better than what
oh
we're
yeah.
doing.
This
Yeah.
is one of my core values too. I believe in that. I believe in having that human connection together. We
Oh,
can do some great things. It's just
yes,
we are lacking some kind of a fellowship. Let's team up. Let's do something together. We are
yes,
extraordinary beings. Like who else you know
exactly.
apart from human beings who can talk like this?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's like we all have our differences, and that's where the beauty really lies, is in our differences and the things that we can learn and develop and do if we just learn to exist
Exist together.
exist
See,
together.
absolutely. Like you could like one you know a person could be thinking like, oh, that person is different from me. And
Mhm.
for me, it's like, oh wow, that person
Yeah,
is different. How cool is that?
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. But it's like we're raised in this almost like competitive state,
Yes.
right? Where it's like we we um we we all have insecurities, and I think if we all could just recognize that we all have insecurities, we're all afraid to show our true
Yeah,
selves, we're all like,
absolutely.
even think of me like 2 seconds ago, I was like, well, I'm not going to share my negative ones, I'm going to share my positive ones, right? Like, it's hard to be
It's
vulnerable,
hard to be
and
one.
we're taught that we're in an environment where we are constantly competing and striving for things that are not necessarily things that we want to strive
It,
for,
it's just
right?
in our heads, right? Like we are just making things like really, really big in our heads. And to be honest, like people don't even care about those things until it's just most of the things are in your head when you're thinking about it.
Exactly. And so and then what it just further exasperates, like comparing, and then when
Yeah.
someone's different, well, we're going to use that as feedback to show why we're better,
Yeah.
and they're them and they're different, and
Mhm.
that just continues to perpetuate, and it creates very unhealthy systems, right? Like
Right.
even all our systems that currently exist
Yeah.
now are very unhealthy
I
systems.
agree.
All of them need to be changed. All of them
Absolutely.
need to come from a place of embracing the differences,
Yes.
and embracing each other, embracing connectivity, embracing those things. And unfortunately, we use these words in higher systems,
Mhm.
but they don't actually come down that way,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so it tricks us to think, okay, this is, they're trying to make us connected and things like, but it's not really happening, right? But I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
Right.
want
went
to follow
on
up.
a bit of a tangent on that one.
No, that's very useful. I also want to follow up on that because you didn't mention about negative core beliefs. Everyone has their own limiting beliefs, right?
Mhm.
And it's something that holds them back from doing something, and they're not even aware of it until it's been pointed out by someone else, which I find fascinating.
Yeah.
Um, one, what do you? Well, I would ask, like, do you think negative limiting beliefs are something that are ingrained into us when we're growing up in our own society or who we're with? And two, do you have your own negative beliefs or limiting beliefs you think that have held you back? And if so, how did you come or become aware of it?
Mhm. Ali, you're trying to have me expose myself now. No, so definitely, I think negative core beliefs. Again, when we go back to that inner child healing, I believe that they're developed through the experiences that we have, right? And if
Mhm.
there's anything sort of traumatizing, oftentimes our brains will take that in as negative feedback about ourselves, right? So if we were raised in a home where say our parents suffered from alcoholism, or
Mhm.
or any sort of drug abuse or things like that, and thus the child was neglected in those cases, right? Like wasn't given that emotional security, then you would often take that in as I'm an unlovable person, right? Because
Hmm.
we're taught and raised that the people that should love you the most are who? Your
Your
parents.
parents.
And if
Yeah.
your parents don't love you the most, then it must be something wrong with
Wrong with
you,
you.
right?
Yeah.
And that's not the case. So definitely, I think growing up and those sorts of experience create those negative core beliefs. And then for myself, I would say one that I've one that I'll share is the thought of worthiness.
Okay.
Am I worthy to do this? And I think I have allowed that. I think I know I have allowed that to hold me back in certain times, even in terms of opening my own practice.
Mm-hmm.
In my head, I thought, well, there's people that are much better
Yeah.
at doing
We also
at
perform.
doing what they do. Why would someone want to speak to me? Why would someone want to talk to me about it? I have my own struggles and issues,
Right.
right? But then at the end of the day, and luckily I have an amazing support system. I have amazing friends that are really encouraging. And again, that's why I really believe in connection, because it's those connections that help you challenge and push past these negative core beliefs that you have. And it can be connections with anyone. It can be family, or it can be strangers. It can be friends. It literally can be anyone, right? um, but um, but definitely in my core belief of worthiness, there's all these therapists out there that are wonderful and amazing at what they do, so why would I bring any value? But then at the end of the day, when you sit back and you go, okay, but I will be for someone,
Hmm.
right? I will bring value
Yeah.
and knowledge to someone, and the universe will bring that into me, right?
Right.
And honestly, the moment I opened my practice, the first 5 clients I had they aligned exactly with what my experience was, and I knew, I was like, okay, this is confirmation, affirmation that I'm doing what I need to be doing in this moment, right?
This
That's
is,
beautiful.
yeah. So let me put it to Ali now, because he put it at you at the spot. So what are your limiting beliefs, Ali?
Good point. Well, no, I kind of share the sentiment with you. It's the feeling of worthiness is such a, I find, core component in so many people that, and I'm not just speaking about myself, but I know a lot of people that share this as well, is that, am I worthy enough? Am I good enough to be in this relationship, or do a podcast, or get a new job, or start a company, because someone can do it better than me, clearly, right? And I find that even though when you do good and the evidence is there in front of you, you ignore it, because your core belief is already tricking you into think that, oh, that's just a one-time thing. Oh, that's a fluke. Don't worry about it. Oh, that was a nice day. You're not still not going to be good enough. I find that to be one thing that's so common, and one way of basically started combating that is actually journaling my wins, writing down my wins, and saying, okay, so that was my win for day. That was my win for day 2. That was my win for day 3. Even if
Yeah.
it's small things like, going to the gym, doing groceries, eating healthy, small things add up, I've noticed. And I find that that really helps you with your core beliefs, because you can do anything you want. If your core beliefs already like poisoned, it's going to spill over. Like, one analogy I love using is like, if you're pouring tea in a cup, and at one point you're going to stop pouring, but if you're over pouring, it's going to spill over and get in other areas of your life, right? It's going to mess up your table, get on your clothes. So you got to stop pouring at a certain level to make sure it's not, going to mess things up. So 100% I share that sentiment, that level of worthiness. How do I prove it to myself or others, right? And the big
Yeah.
issue is, even though when you do, you're not going to accept it.
Yeah, but you know what's great, and this goes back to the journaling thing, is that you're writing down. So what that's doing is that's providing you with evidence that's
Hmm.
contrary to what your core belief is. And that's so important when it comes to trying to change the core belief, is to provide yourself with evidence. Because what, again, our brains want to do is, if we have this core belief, our brains exasperate that negative core belief. It holds on to the experiences in our life that prove that core belief.
Oh yeah.
So when you can write down things that prove the opposite and prove what you
Hmm.
want to change, it does wonders. So that's great. Yeah. Okay, I think
100%.
I think it's your partner's turn to share his, huh?
Yeah, so I think since everybody's being vulnerable, and we should be vulnerable, because it's not just about, positives in life, and we all go through challenges as well at the same time. I mean, yin and yang, right? Like, it's not always, you know, gloomy. There are gloomy days as well. So like for me, what I would say is like limiting beliefs. There have been many limiting beliefs in my life.
Mhm.
Like everybody goes through some kind of shit in their lives, right? And like, but I've seen that, I've evolved over the period of time. What my limiting beliefs were 3 years or 10 years down the line, they're not the same anymore. Right now, like how I think it's more like, for me, it's not like limiting beliefs. Like, how do I fight the resistance is major, the thing that I'm working towards. Like there could be resistance around anything. Like just for an example, if I have to do this podcast, should I do this or not?
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah,
This is a
yeah,
resistance, like a primitive brain inside of you. Do you really want this? Just keep
Yeah.
yourself relaxed. Why do you want to, put yourself out there in the world?
yeah,
Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to expose yourself in front of the world? It
yeah.
will be very, very, difficult. Like you'll be put at spot. Like, and the way that I want to fight it, not actually fight with it, but dance with it, and I'm saying, you know what? I acknowledge you. I know you're there, but I'm still anyway going to do it.
And that's perfect, and that's exactly it, right? It's acknowledging that, hey, I see you.
I see you.
You're
I know
there.
you're somewhere
I
there.
see you. Thank you for coming up and reminding me that I need to continue challenging myself. Like
Definitely.
that's what it
Yeah.
is. And oftentimes I tell, like I share this with my clients, when they're wanting to make a change. So you got to think of our brain and the way it works. When we're growing up, it's our thought process is like patterns within our heads, right? So if you think of, if as a metaphor to put it into, maybe a better understanding, is if you go to a forest and you want to go
Mhm.
on a trail walk, right? And there's already a beaten down trail. That's what you've learned growing up, right? So that's all your negative, positive, all your core beliefs and things are on that trail, that pathway in your brain
Mhm.
that you easily follow down because you've already created it. So when you're looking at creating a new thought process, or you're wanting to change a core belief or core value, you're going to the forest that has no trail, no beaten
Mhm.
path. You're going to a full-on bush and you're having to whack down the trees and rocks
Mhm.
and boulders and things that are in your way, right?
Right.
And so what happens when we're creating those changes is, sometimes we're up for the task to go down that new path and to keep beating it down. But oftentimes when we're creating the changes, sometimes it feels a little easier to go down the path that we know and we're used to. So our brains will go back to that, right? But then it's
Mhm.
to remember and to hold on that, the more I can walk this path, the
Right.
more it's going to become like that original path, the more that it's going to be like the nice beaten down path that I'm going to walk down, and then that other path is going to grow in, and we're not going to go down it anymore, right?
Interesting. Maybe that's why good habits are so hard to make or create,
They
because
are,
you're
yeah, because
unexplored areas.
they are. That's it, exactly it. You put it in, in much simpler terms than what I just did.
But it's a really good analogy. I love that.
They are unexplored areas. Yeah.
Yeah, just like even walking, like I would say, like just, crossing the road. I mean, a part of your brain would say, you'll get killed by the bus which is crossing by. But you
Yeah.
anyway do it because you say that, okay, I get you, but I still have to go that way. So it's
Yeah.
like doing, you have to go to that path, no matter, a part of you would say, just be careful, you might die. So
Yeah.
like that's always trying to protect you, thinking it's protecting you,
Yeah.
but somewhere it is holding you back from things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and that's exactly what anxiety is, right? Anxiety is fear.
Yes.
Mhm.
Anxiety is our body going, oh wait, woo, what's this situation?
Mhm.
How are we going to deal with this, right? So then you have to put
Exactly.
in those protective measures for yourself to feel comfortable to move forward, to keep going, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is
Yeah.
awesome. Ali, do you want to ask the last question? It's been so
E-
wonderful.
Yes, Tess, again, thanks again for coming on. We
Yeah.
usually have a cornerstone question that we send our guests a goodbye farewell with. And that's something we started asking because we personally feel very close to this question. So imagine you're 99 years old and everything you've worked for just disappeared. It's all gone. And just imagine you're in that state right now. All your works, all your life's work. Now, if you could go back and talk to your grandkids, what three pieces of advice would you give them, knowing that where you're coming from at that age, losing everything, and you've lived the life you wanted at that point?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a good question. I would think,
Take your time. This is a
yeah,
tough one.
I might have to. Yeah, I mean, I saw it in your email, but it's one that I couldn't think of right away. Um, I think I would, as a piece of advice, is acknowledge the importance of connection and the importance of being present with the people you love, putting aside the materialistic things and the things that, and I think the things that are traditionally taught to us to want and to value, and to actually explore what truly brings you happiness and joy, right? And to ignore and let everything else fly, right? Um, I think I would just, and I do with my children actually, is I really nail home that connection piece to me, and I think that that's what we've really lost as a society. Is we A lot of people are others, and everything that comes up. I mean, if you look at COVID and you look at the mask, we have people that are going along and wearing the mask, and then we have the anti-maskers, and we use it to divide and separate.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the thing that I just want to nail home with my children and with anyone that I come in contact with is just the importance of being connected with each other and embracing the differences that are around us, right? I think that that is
Right.
probably one of the most important pieces. And then do what brings you joy and happiness, and forget and ignore all the rest.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for having me talk on here. And I think I was talking to Ali earlier, when we were talking about limiting core beliefs and things like that. Like I was like, oh, I don't I don't know if I should come on here again. Why would people want to hear me talk? So I'm happy that I pushed through and joined, and it was lovely talking to both of you.
Same here, same here. And before we bid you farewell, where can people find you? Online? Are you on social media? How can they get
Yes.
it?
Yeah. So online, so I'm on Psychology Today. So Tessa Gracie, you can look that up. I'm in the Waterloo region, but one of the benefits for my practice with COVID is that all my stuff is online. So really, it doesn't even matter if you're in the region or not. Counseling is available to you if you wish to seek me as a therapist. And then on Instagram, I'm grow underscore with underscore Tessa. But I'm not on. I don't use it that much, but you can still contact me that way.
No, but this is brilliant because, see, you have such a positivity around you, the way that you speak, the way that the kind of humbleness and the way of, like you say, human connection. I think this is one of your core values, right?
It
The
is.
way that you bring it on the table, I think this is what is also needed on the social media front side as well. Even if you don't want to do it for yourself, I believe you should do it for people because we need that. People around need this positivity, what you hold.
Yes, yeah. I believe that people do need a lot more positivity for sure. Yes. Thank you. I'm going to say thank you.
All right. It was really lovely talking to you, Tessa, and a lot of good stuff we discovered. And thank you so much for being vulnerable about your, you know, limiting beliefs as well, because we are not just going to talk about like it's all great and brilliant, life is great. Yeah, there are good times and the bad times too. We all
Yeah.
struggle through the same shit every day, but it's just that how do you look at those things to actually make yourself get through those things and make a better life, and not just for yourself but also for people who are really really struggling. So when I look at life, yeah, it's like when I compare my life and when I think that I'm having problems, then I look at like there are really really people who are suffering from things which are like really physical problems which people are suffering from. And is my problem really that of a challenge? Then I say no, it's like I'm just making a heck out of it. So thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing your knowledge and experience. It was lovely to have you tonight.
Yeah, well, thank you guys so much. It was lovely being a part of this. I'm very grateful to have interacted with both of you. This has been great.
Awesome.